I think it is important for everyone to remember that the only way that Republicans can retain power is through force. Many of their policies, if not all of their policies, are not popular with the people. Their stance on healthcare, on reproductive rights, on marriage rights, on voting rights, they have been proven time and time again that when there are fair maps, when there is a fair voting system, they lose. They cannot keep power without usurping that power, stealing that power, forcing their views on everyone else and calling it a mandate. If the Republicans ever left getting their seats up to merit, they would never win. That's why I always laugh when they always say on the merits. They don't do anything on the merits. Never have. And they darn sure don't get their seats in Congress based on the merits. They get them by purging voter rolls directly before an election, like the millions of people who were purged in Texas before the 2024 election. They get in their seats by redrawing the maps to their favor, by stopping programs like Souls to the Polls, requiring a voter ID, or requiring now that you need a passport or a birth certificate in order to vote, which some people in this country who were born in this country are old enough where they didn't actually have a birth certificate given to them when they were born because they were not allowed to be born in hospitals. They had to be born at home. Black people still live in this country today who their parents were not allowed to give birth at a hospital because they were Black. And now Republicans, because they are going after the votes once again of the Black community, are forcing people to either have a passport or a birth certificate, which if you've ever gotten your passport, it is very difficult to do without a birth certificate. They're going after mail-in choices, as well as early options. All of these things under the guise of election integrity. When the only people who have been caught trying to defraud the system in that way have been Republicans. People from their own group, once again, are the problem. But yet, they want to use that as a way to keep other people from voting because they don't want to win on the merits. They don't want to win on their policies because they know their policies, even in some of the deepest red states, are very unpopular. And if their tactics before the choices are cast don't work, they cry that it was rigged, or they refuse to concede for 6 months and try to litigate a win in court like they did with the Supreme Court in North Carolina. Sore losing is ingrained in the Republican Party now, and they have an innate sense of entitlement to things that do not belong to them, which stems all the way back to the entitlement that they had owning human beings. For these people, they believe that they are entitled to these seats. They believe that they are entitled to your body. These people whose ideology justified the owning of human beings, instead of owning actual humans, they will own everyone through policy. They try to force their policies on people to own whether or not you can marry, you can vote. You are forced to have a child that you now can't feed because you don't get paid a living wage. And at a time where healthcare, food assistance, and everything else is being taken away, at a time where people are being fired en masse, at a time where prices are going up to the point where people are going without because they literally cannot afford it because wages have been stagnant for over 20 years. This is what makes what the Supreme Court is poised to do even more sinister. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1964 prohibits the practices and procedures that discriminate against color, race, or language spoken by specific minority groups. So in Louisiana, where the Black and brown population is about 33%, they only had one district that represented them out of 6. So in order to make more of a representation of the population that was there, they were ordered to create a second congressional district that represented a third of the population. Well, quote, non-Black voters decided that they were being discriminated against because the maps were now fair. And this is why people say that racist white people believe that equality is oppression for them, because they're not used to being in a world that is equal. They are used to being in a world where they are on top, where everyone else doesn't get what they get. And when they are forced to be on equal ground with the people who they have always thought to be their lesser, they believe they are being oppressed because they actually have to now work for the things that they have. The mediocrity that they have enjoyed for 400 plus years is no longer good enough for them to compete with. And they don't like that. So these people took this case to court and it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And now the conservative 6-3 Supreme Court is weighing the decision to see if Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1964 is unconstitutional and discriminatory against white people. And just like they did when they gutted the Voting Rights Act before, they want to say that this section is no longer needed. They want to say that we are at a time where you no longer have to worry about these things that we had to worry about in the 1960s. Thing is, this is during a time where policies are being put in place specifically because they think it hurts Black and brown people. The rolling back of DEIA policies that they call DEI because they want people to think that Black people benefit more from DEI than does anyone else. When in essence, Black people, Black women are the last people to benefit from DEI. White women were the highest beneficiaries of DEI. They want to take away things like Medicaid, where white people make up almost 60% of the people who use Medicaid. I believe it's 57%, where Black people, I believe, is like 26%. SNAP benefits. People are already celebrating the fact that SNAP will be taken away, thinking that it is going to hurt the Black community, when 41 to 43% of SNAP recipients are white. And Black people make up, again, in the 20s. These policies that they think are going to hurt the Black community, it doesn't. Not in as high a numbers as they think it does. But the Supreme Court wants to say that we don't need these protections anymore, when policies that are specifically going after Black people because they think it hurts us are in full effect right now from the Republican Party. So let's just state the obvious and say that the Supreme Court is going to finish gutting the Voting Rights Act of 1964. Let's say that that happens. What next? And you know what? I took my time making this video because I needed to clear my head. I needed to clear those initial emotions that I had from the prospects of Republicans gaining 19 to 20 seats in the House, which is what the analysts are saying could happen if this goes down. Clear my head and my heart when it came to people saying that this ruling would be the end of democracy, throwing our children in the same fight that our parents and grandparents had to fight. And in doing that, I did what I try to always do. I start looking for solutions and ways to fight back. And I'm not going to lie. Some of the things that I came up with are a little scorched earth, but desperate times. We know that if Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1964 is repealed, then Republicans are not going to waste any time breaking up Democratic districts anywhere that they can. Not only based on race, but based on what districts actually lean blue. Of course, race is going to be one of the things that they use to determine if a district is blue or not. But any district that they think is going to be Democratic, they're going to go for that district. Thing is, those votes have to go somewhere. So them breaking up Democratic districts and putting those blue dots into red districts, thinking that they're going to share up seats, those blue votes are still going to move that needle. So if they put blue voters into red districts, those red districts are going to turn a little more purple. Get out the vote efforts in those areas are going to be paramount. And there can be a huge get out the vote effort because a lot of people think that their votes don't matter. Because of all of these tactics that are used by Republicans, their votes aren't going to matter either way. And this happens both in red districts and in blue districts. But the thing is, because Republican voters know voting in higher numbers is going to make sure that their candidate gets in, and they don't have voting rights oppression, they know that their votes matter. We need boots on the ground to make people believe that their votes matter. 44% of the country did not vote in 2024. 90 million people decided that they were just going to leave their fate up to chance. Those people are also suffering. Those people can't get away from the policies that have been enacted by their inaction. So those people are tappable, reachable. And progressives, you've got to reach them. They need to run strong campaigns. They need to primary any Democrat that isn't talking about voting rights, that isn't talking about this fascist regime, that isn't going to do what they need to do. This is no both sides of the aisle. We're done with that. If Democrat candidates are not speaking to all the things that have brought us to this point, we don't need to vote for them. They need to be primaried and they need to be kicked out of the Democratic Party. That is exactly what they did on the Republican side. All of those 80s and 90s Republicans, gone. They were replaced with the Tea Party in 2010, replaced with QAnon in 2015, and replaced with MAGA throughout everything else. We need to replace all of those Senate and House Democrats that take AIPAC money, that bend to the will of Republicans because they want to work across the aisle. We don't care about that. They're not working with you. They only work with you when you are doing something that they want you to do. So stop working with them. We need progressives to get out there. They can reach the Republican voters, those red districts, because they are speaking to the policies the majority of people want. Another thing, a lot of these analysts and a lot of the Republicans are really underestimating how much they have pissed off white people. They believe that by taking the black vote, taking the brown vote, they will win all of these seats. What they don't understand is that with all of these policies, they are now pissing off white people who are going to end up voting against them. I think they are underestimating the people who they have hurt and who are tired of this and don't want to actually see this country go down the path that it's going. It was all fun and games when it was a joke, but now that it's actually happening, a lot of these people are changing their minds. And you can see this in real time at the No King protests, not the big ones in New York, Chicago, Detroit, LA, but the small ones, the over turnouts in red districts, in Idaho, in Utah, in Alabama, in Louisiana. Every single one of those turnouts were higher. In Kentucky, in Kansas, they were higher than expected. These people are coming out and they're saying that enough is enough. They are underestimating the voting bloc of white people when it comes to voting for Democratic candidates, even in red districts. The last thing I'm going to say about this is literally scorched earth. Desperate times. Analysts are saying that if this Supreme Court decision comes down, that the Republicans are going to gain 19 to 20 seats. And that may or may not be true in these red districts, which are the ones that they are looking at. They are looking at the red southern states when they are making this analysis. Thing is, they are doing that under the guise of Democrats doing nothing. Because Democrats have always tried to, in the face of everything, keep their integrity. They have always tried to play fair, reach across the aisle, make democracy their linchpin. I really, really hate to say it, but that needs to end. If this happens, and they can just break up districts specifically to take seats away from Democrats in southern states, then the Democratic states need to do the exact same thing to the Republican seats in their states. California has 10 Republican representatives in the House. New York has 8. Illinois has 3. Washington State has 2. Virginia has 2. New Jersey has 3. Oregon has 1. Maryland has 1. And Minnesota has 4. 34 seats that Republicans represent in blue states. I believe my math is correct when I say 34 is higher than 19 to 20. Take them. Take the seats. Take them all. Because if Republicans are going to do this in order to make it so people do not have a voice, so that they can enact these harmful policies on the people, you have a duty to this country, Democrats, in these states, the country that we all know is falling to this fascist regime. You have a duty to the country to take those seats and fight fire with fire. Yes, that is scorched earth. No, I don't want that to have to be a thing. But yes, it is a thing right now. Take the seats. Take them all 34 seats. Take them. District your maps. Apparently it's legal now to take every single one of those seats. Fight fire with fire for the sake of the people in this country. You can figure out how to put it back when this country is back under control. Take the seats.